The Wrecking Crew ending explained who killed Walter Hale and why Jonny makes that final decision. The following contains spoilers for The Wrecking Crew. The Wrecking Crew is a goofy action flick that covers a lot of the expected elements of the genre, but infuses enough genuine character growth and intrigue to draw in the audience. The film stars Jonny and James, a pair of estranged half-brothers from Hawaii, who are reunited after their father is killed in a hit-and-run. However, it quickly turns out that the accident was far from what the authorities believe. While the movie's primary plotline delves into the machinations of the real villain and what he's doing on the island, the more intriguing turns in the film are rooted in the character's emotional growth. While the twisty nature of the Wrecking Crew's narrative initially presents a few options for potential villains, the true antagonist of the film proves to be Robichaux, the wealthy casino magnate who has an interest in the island. During their initial investigation, Jonny and James grow suspicious of Robichaux alongside plenty of other potential suspects. However, Jonny becomes convinced Robichaux is behind the conspiracy after the death of Robichaux's wife. Framed as a suicide, Jonny's previous meeting with her and recognition of her fear for her husband convince him that he presents a threat. Robichaux's later decision to kidnap the brothers' loved ones for leverage only cements this discovery. Robichaux seeks an investment opportunity by placing casinos in Hawaii, which requires the assistance of both the criminal underworld for protection and elected officials for public approval. This is how Yakuza soldier Nakamura and the Hale's family friend Governor Peter Maho become involved, respectively, giving Robichaux the pieces he needs to open his casino. However, a wrinkle in the plan presents itself with Walter Hale. A private investigator, Walter, was hired by Robichaux's wife to find incriminating evidence that she could use against her husband in their pending divorce. However, after finding evidence of Robichaux's money laundering and overall scheme, Walter copied the info and tried to flee. Although he was killed, Walter sent his discoveries to Jonny. This in turn attracted the attention of the Yakuza, whose attack on Jonny set him off to Hawaii. With the info found by their father, Jonny and James are able to expose not just Robichaux's plans, but also reveal the involvement of their uncle Peter in the scheme. Walter's death serves as the setup for the film, but the true inciting incident is when Jonny finds himself drawn back to Hawaii by the Yakuza attack. This also allows the film to underscore the distance between Walter and his sons, as well as Walter's enduring belief in them even if they had become estranged. Jonny and James spend much of the Wrecking Crew at one another's throats, with their tension initially coming across as conflicting personalities. However, as the film progresses, the true scope of their conflict emerges. The tension goes back to their youth, when Jonny was born out of an affair Walter had while with James' mother. Jonny describes himself as Walter's bastard, and James admits that he carried a certain level of resentment towards Jonny for serving as a constant reminder of his father's failings. However, their true falling out came when Jonny's mother was killed under mysterious circumstances. Blaming the local syndicate, Jonny enraged the criminal underworld of the island in his investigation. This prompted James to send Jonny away, saving his life but further straining their relationship. This also explains why Jonny is warned by the local crime lord, Mr. K, that if he doesn't leave in a few days, he'll be killed. Jonny and James' disputes are the source of a lot of the Wrecking Crew's comedy, but it's also clearly the film's best showcase for the two actors. Their exhausted conversation after a rage-fueled brawl outside a police station speaks to the lingering pain of their childhood and underscores their similarities. It's also where both characters can confront their faults and flaws. Jonny is forced to admit that he lashes out and can't control himself, but he also expresses his pain at his only brother seemingly turning his back on him. James, in turn, acknowledges that he failed Jonny when he needed it most, affirming their bond in the present. The bond between Jonny and James is reaffirmed during the course of the film, especially at the climax, when James saves a wounded Jonny from drowning after they dispatch Robichaux and Nakamura. Afterwards, the two are seen celebrating with their family, seemingly confirming that Valentina has resumed her relationship with Jonny. However, the true emotional turn of the film comes when Mr. K visits Jonny on the beach. Seemingly affording Jonny a bit more leeway in his death sentence, Mr. K reveals that he knows who killed Jonny's mother, and that he isn't part of the syndicate. However, rather than race off for revenge, Jonny decides to stay with his family. Jonny and James end the film discussing the importance of their bond, and how Walter's final act didn't just uncover a major conspiracy, but brought them back together. Afterwards, Jonny allows the info about his mother's killer to burn on the grill while the family spends time together with a barbecue. It's a surprising move, but an emotionally rewarding one. Much of Jonny's arc is focused on his inability to escape his trauma, dragging his family into a cycle of violence and conflict instead of letting go. By choosing to forego vengeance and stay with James, Jonny proves that his emotional growth has had an impact on him, For the most part, The Wrecking Crew has fun being a riff on the Lethal Weapon archetype with plenty of bombastic action and comedy throughout. However, at the core of the film is a story about family. Jonny and James are bonded on a deeper level, even if their comical antagonism keeps them at arm's length. However, their lingering trauma over their youth still shades their decisions today and keeps them from being a family. By confronting those nagging faults and fears, the two acknowledge their vulnerabilities and need for one another. By the end of the film, James is willing to follow Jonny wherever, and Jonny is at peace enough to embrace that. It's notable that Jonny, who had been suspended from police work for killing a drug dealer, finds the ability to let go of his rage and actually listen to other people. Likewise, James learns to lower his guard and let others in. It's the key to The Wrecking Crew's surprisingly sweet ending and subversion of potential sequel setups.